everyone, my name is Jena Apgar with the Business Growth Network and Brand.blog, and I am very fortunate today. I have called in a favor to my good friend Daren Martin, and we were at the Veterans in Business meeting last month, and he gave...
Which you signed me up for.
Yeah, I signed up. Just kind of take away all this
You're
time.
calling me a bunch of favors. That's awesome.
I promised I'd give back.
That was actually a great event, though. I was really
It was, and they were
awesome.
very appreciative. So whenever a non-veteran comes into the group,
yeah.
I feel like they're always a little bit, who's this guy? And you know, there's a different camaraderie with veterans. We kind of all have an instant trust. So when a non-veteran comes in, they're like,
who is this guy?
Who's this guy? But you came in, and when you left, you ran out without saying bye to me. I understand you're a busy guy. And I saw your box. I'm like, oh, he left his box. He's totally coming back. And then I looked over and said, it's totally empty. Did you sell all his books?
We did sell a bunch of books, actually. That was awesome.
But they all had wonderful things to say. He gives this great, impactful little speech, total benefits, great takeaways, whether you are working in a business or you're a professional. I think there was not one person in all the industries that were available and out there that did not have some kind of takeaway. So I'm making him come back and do it for Facebook Live so we can share it with everybody. Daren Martin's been a friend for almost a decade. That totally ages me, right?
Yeah, we met in 3rd grade.
Yeah, totally, 3rd grade. Totally kindergarten, you're getting it all wrong. But he has a PhD, and you were saying you have 3 books.
4.
5.
Cha-ching, 5. Well, yeah, I don't really
You
count.
don't really count the first one?
I'm going to reissue it. It's got, I just threw it out there years ago. It's got a bunch of typos.
It was your first one, though, right?
Yeah, and I think it's great content, but I'm going to put it back out.
Okay.
So, yeah, 5 books.
And I know I sent an email, and I linked out to all of them in your profile on Amazon, and I will post that in the comments below, but I will let him take it away and let him do what he does best.
Okay, awesome. So I actually normally do this in front of an audience. I'm in the audience of 2 right now, which is fantastic. But I just want to yak a little bit about some of the stuff that I did in the talk, and that is just really, really important, not only to me, but hopefully if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in business, important to you as well. And so I'm assuming, Jena, that while we're doing this, if comments or questions are coming in,
I will let you know.
We can kind of feed those live. So, but what I did that Jena saw was based on this book, A Company of Owners. And I put this book out about a year ago, and it has been stunning to see the response to it. I've had a couple of C-level execs call it best book I've read since Good to Great. I guarantee you that's going on the back cover and then reprint. Thank you, Blake Coleman, which we should be getting in a week or so. But I think the reason it struck such a chord is because it starts out by talking about what's the typical level of engagement at a company. Now, so here's what I want you to think about. Think about not necessarily your company. We'll get to that in a little bit if you have a company. But if you don't, think about the businesses where you shop, the places, the restaurants you go to, all of the stuff, all the interactions you have out there, whether it's retail or airlines, and think about how engaged people are at that company. I mean, how many people do you meet that are just right on it? So I don't know why in the world, but I brought plenty of beverage. I'm doing 2 product placements. We've got Starbucks and Paradise Bakery, but I want to give a shout out, and I didn't do this on purpose. I just happened to bring my drinks with me. But Paradise, we were in there, and everybody was just on it. How's it going? Great to see you. This is fantastic. So I would call those highly engaged employees. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of their hiring practices, because of their training. But the typical engagement at a company is 29%. Ridiculous. I mean, that's just a blight on us as companies, because if you've only got 30%, 29% engagement at your company, that means you're operating with about a third of the workforce. And can you imagine, I got up in front of an audience a while back and I said, look, if you listen, pay attention to what I'm talking about, if you really will build a company of owners, I'm going to triple your business. And why am I able to say that? Well, with 29% engagement, if a third of the workforce are the ones pulling the weight, what if you had everybody on board? So in that book and in the talk, I talk about what does it look like to create a company of owners. Really, the first half of it is about the culture, the kind of culture you create. And I'm sorry, what passes for culture these days in so many companies is just abysmal. I spoke last night to Sim Group. It was a last-minute deal. They called me at noon, I think it was, and said, hey, our speaker canceled. I've spoke to the local Sim chapter 4 times in the last 5 years. And they've been a great audience. These are top CEOs and CIOs and VPs of IT from some really, really large companies, people you would recognize. But I went and spoke to them last night and was talking about this whole concept of, look, so many businesses are dead in the water, and it's for multiple reasons. But culture is the most important part of it. In fact, when Lou Gerstner went to IBM, IBM was in a lot of trouble years ago, and Lou Gerstner came in basically to try to save IBM. He came in as the new CEO. And he made a lot of changes there. But he said when he first got there, hey, when I first got to IBM, I knew that culture was an important part of the game, along with strategy, along with product line, and all those other things. He said halfway through that project, I figured out that culture was not an important part of the game. He said culture is the game. If you don't change the culture, you don't change the company. So I would imagine there's some people watching who are not part of the company. Maybe you're a company of one. Think about this. Think about the kind of culture that you set even within your own company. How do you talk to yourself? How do you deal with yourself? What kind of settings do you put yourself in? Are you surrounding yourself with smart people? Are you watching and listening to stuff that like Jena puts out? Are you learning? What are you reading? How are you reinforcing that culture, even if it's just you? I mean, I have to do this on a regular basis. I work for myself. Basically, just added a business partner who just happens to be my wife. So that's now my colleague. She's over there snapping photos. But when we do that, it's we're working together. I'm working by myself. I have to get up in the morning with a certain kind of attitude and create the kind of culture that is going to foster the business that I want to have. So that's really what a company of owners is about. And it's everything from, I talk in the book about push play. Southwest Airlines says people rarely succeed at something unless they're having a great time doing it. And that is so true. And you contrast that with Henry Ford, who years ago, for the Ford Motor Company, started, obviously, had a no jocularity at work policy. So you were not allowed to laugh, you were not allowed to do what you're doing right now.
That's
Jena's smiling, you would be in big trouble, right?
My business partner David's making fun of me. He told me to wake up.
Are you on screen right now?
No, from when he was watching earlier.
Okay, gotcha. Wake up. Jena just looks so stylish today, too.
Oh,
I mean, the hair thing and everything.
This is my mom hair.
Is that your mom hair?
This is the mom hair.
Love it. So, but, if you think about it, Ford had this no jocularity policy. In fact, it's reported that somebody got fired at the company for laughing too much at work. Hey, that doesn't work in 2017. Quite frankly, it probably didn't work back then. People don't, show up well unless they're having a good time doing something. It doesn't mean it has to be all just fun and games, but why not have some fun and games mixed into what people are doing at work? Make it interesting. Jena came into your office and the place just has a cool feel to it. It's got a cool vibe and, nice artwork and stuff. You got a great big window here. And it's just a more playful environment than what a lot of people are working in, which, many cubicles look like they've been sentenced to
I used
prison.
to design those, but when you try to work with the owners to design something different, so
Yeah.
the interior designers know that when you turn these beautiful spaces into community space, that everyone benefits, but every owner is like, no, we want the principals and the managers on the window wall. We want to hide everyone else in these tiny dark cubes. They're cheap. And it
Reflective of
the beached well, right?
book that just came out called Beached Well, and that's exactly the kind of stuff I'm talking about in here.
It doesn't work, and when every piece of research out there says that when you treat everyone, you put these in these community areas with sunlight, and you give them some window space, even if it's just a break room right there in the corner office instead of the CO.
It livens things up.
It makes the productivity goes up, the connectivity, so people start interacting with one another.
Absolutely.
And the owners don't care.
Yeah.
Give me the big office.
I hear you. And try fighting that battle. But, that's what people have been really confused by this book title. I love this book. It's starting to get some good press as well. The subtitle is called Learning to Swim in the New Ocean. And as you can tell from all the stuff I do, I mean, nobody's reading 400-page business books. You might be. I do read them on occasion. But these are quick hit, easy to read. I just had somebody send me a book that The Loophole of Happiness. I can't remember the title of it. Is that it? Loophole of Happiness. It's 532 words or something like that.
That's
on
it?
Kindle, there's one sentence on every page. I said, man, I thought my books were easy to read. This guy's book is amazing, and it's actually really, really great stuff.
Your books have come a long way. I like those.
Yeah, they've got a lot of pop to them, but so people get confused about this title, Beached Whale. What's that about? It's about companies that are sitting on a sand dune because, as I say, they missed the memo that the world as we know it is over. And that's what I was doing for the audience last night. I'm not sure how well it went over. Some people were very enthusiastic about it and, right on board, and other people were sitting out there like, sounds like you're describing my company. How do you fix this? Or I don't want to fix it, right? So there's all sorts of beached well. Basically what I do in the book is I talk about beached, unbeach. I'm just scatter shooting, Jena.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead and
free form. I'm just going to rattle on, all right?
And when you start getting dry, I'm going to hit you up again.
Okay, perfect.
I'll throw Coke at you.
So beached whale, the first indicator you're a beached whale, and by the way, I can't remember exactly where I got the title, but there's a quote early on in the book by Peter Godwa, who is with Ticketmaster at the time, CEO of Ticketmaster. He says when they took over Ticketron, it wasn't like we had defeated, he said, I feel like we had come upon a beached whale that was already dead instead of defeating a fierce enemy in battle. Now think about that. I mean, how strong it was.
That's
just
some art of war stuff. You had to break it down and.
Holy cow! You just came in and took over this company because they were completely beached whale. So the first indicator you're a beached whale company. This is my all-time favorite. If you walk around and there's a Dilbert cartoon on every cubicle,
ouch!
You're probably a beached whale company. And then my friend pointed out on the podcast, we did a podcast, a couple of them on beached whale. He said, yeah, or if you walk around, there are no Dilbert cartoons because the management has made you take them all down. Right?
Yeah,
that's even worse beached, right? But there's some other things in there.
Here's one: hug a millennial. So I'm technically a millennial by 1 year.
Because you're 12.
No, because I'm 33 and
okay.
I graduated in 2001, and they call the millennials the graduate class of 2000 through, I don't even, so my daughter's a millennial too.
Yeah, my kids, I've got a 29, 27, and 20. They're definitely millennials. And, oh my goodness.
There's just horrible, there's nothing that says millennials are great on the internet. It is bad, bad, bad. And I'm like,
look, huge,
we have great ideas. We invented Facebook.
Mistake. Huge mistake. So when I say hug a millennial, I am so tired of the millennial hating going on out there.
And you're not a millennial.
I'm not a millennial. I'm clearly not a millennial. You can maybe see a little of the gray hair, but I've got 3 millennials. There's no way.
You dyed it, right? It's that silver dye, right?
It's totally dyed.
It's in fashion.
But, so my issue with the whole millennial thing is the reason millennials are not functioning well in corporate America is not because the millennials have the problem. It's because we're not changing as a company. Look, think about farming.
An old manism?
Think about going from farming to industrial, an industrial setting. Big shift, right? You can't act like a farmer when you're working in a factory. Then you go from factory to more corporate setting. You can't act like a factory worker when you're working in a corporation. And now you can't function if you're still operating in that old space. So I call all the millennial hating and the, I'm not going to name names or get into things, but I've seen some stuff recently talking about basically, cell phones are the devil. This is the problem. We need to be able to have face-to-face conversation. Hey, you know what? I got news for you. We're having a face-to-face conversation right now, right?
You are.
Now,
I never thought about
I can't hear you, but you are responding, and there's stuff coming up, and I do want to hear from you, and I'm going to go back and comment on that stuff, and then hopefully you're going to like me on LinkedIn and tweet. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to become friends. That's the way it works. What a beautiful world we live in where we can do that.
Is this just about your company culture, or does it expand to how you work with your customers and your network and partners?
Ooh, great question. So I do get into that. One of the Beached Well deals is when you treat outsiders as second-class citizens. So I used to have
outsiders.
Outsiders, contractors, otherwise known as, or customers. So I had a CEO that called contractors blood-sucking leeches.
What?
That's a really strong way to build a relationship.
Like the contractors that help you, that are kind of sort of employees?
Yeah, whatever. They're coming in to help you implement SAP or to do this or to do that. That's just ridiculous. I mean, everybody's part of the team. And by the way, in 2017, if the customer is out here and they're not part of the team, you miss the memo. You're definitely a beached whale company. I talk about that in Beached Whale. You got to pull the customers in. They're a part of the conversation. They can tell you more about your business than you even know. And they're going to bring huge value. And as I say, if you don't want people to see how the sausage is made, the old saying, then maybe you need a new way of making the sausage. Because if you're embarrassed and you don't want people to see what's going on behind the scenes, then behind the scenes is a problem. Right?
That's a Trump company issue right now.
Yes.
Make America great again, but all his stuff is made in China, Thailand, Bangladesh.
Why in the heck, Jena, are you dragging me into political
Not
commentary?
political, but an example of you don't want to see how it's made.
So by the way,
saying one thing.
How do you like this shift? But speaking of Thailand, I actually grew up in Thailand, and this book, they just bought the Thai rights to.
What?
So Amarin Publishing in Thailand, which is a very reputable publisher, I hear from my Thai friends, and they're going to publish it in Thai. So this is a hand-drawn, handwritten business book.
You drew that?
I drew it. Yeah, you want to see my favorite page? I want to see my favorite thing in here. So
like you actually hand penciled?
Yeah. So
nice.
You see that right there?
Dedicate all the kids.
But no,
the other one.
That's great too. But look how long it took to do that copyright page. And I had to put all the ISBN number.
Oh, you actually hand wrote that? That's not a font.
Hand wrote it. That is not a font.
Oh, and you see, I have college educated in that.
I think I even did that on like 2 glasses of wine or something. So
is that why the writing starts to slant up?
Look at you critiquing it from over there. Anyway, this book right here is coming out this week in paperback, because every book moving forward is going to be this size in paperback. But you want to hear the coolest thing about this book?
What's that?
So a Facebook friend of mine emails me one day, or Facebook messages me and say, hey, I hope it's okay. I shared your book with a friend of mine. It's this guy named Leonard Cohen. Well, I just start freaking out. You may not know Leonard is a millennial, but he wrote that song, Hallelujah. I should not be singing.
I know that one.
Okay, everybody knows that one. It's one of the biggest songs out there. For so many people have covered it. And he's a famous singer-songwriter, especially among musicians. So shared Whiteboard with Leonard Cohen, the now late great Leonard Cohen. Sorry to say, he died right at the end of last year. But and he sent me an autographed copy of his poetry book.
His poetry book.
Yeah, because his poetry book has drawings in it. It reminded him of that, and so he sent me this great copy of that.
Wow.
But anyway, yeah. So this one's kind of funky and cool, and the whole idea behind this one is just. I say when I sign it to people, hey, I hope it inspires big ideas, and it's just kind of a page turner. It's kind of lined up in not kind.
Oh, whiteboard.
I'm going to quit saying kind
whiteboard.
of. Yeah, whiteboard. Right. Except this isn't a whiteboard. This is a flip chart.
But, I got whiteboard behind it.
So you can come up and do stuff, and then that's what I do in the book. I talk about what do these images mean, and there's some quotes in there and stuff, and it's just kind of fun. But anyway. I don't know. Boy,
so there was one story specifically that you talked about at the VIB meeting that
yes.
I think was, and I can't remember, I think it was from your sync book about the washing the hands.
Okay, all right.
And I noticed I've started doing that now. I already did it and everyone made fun of me.
Don't tell them the punchline. What, you wash your hands now?
I do.
Okay,
no germs.
So this is actually, this is in a little book called The Sink. It's several people in my world's favorite, which is a little, not irritating. I'm glad they like it, but look how big and deep and dense these books are. And this one's just kind of a little teaching tale. This is a 96 page. You can read this in 10 minutes, literally. But it's about a great story that happened to the co-author, Walter Nussbaum. So the setup is he's in the airport. He walks into the restroom. There's a well-dressed guy, suit and tie. He's all decked out. And he's over there and he washes his hands, he gets the paper towels, and then he's wiping down the sink all around him. Well, Walter walks up and says something like, boy, they sure have well-dressed help around here, or something like that. And the guy just kind of smiled and laughed a little bit and said, well, you know what they say, why not leave it better than you found it? So the guy walks out, Walter goes to wash his hands, he gets the paper towels, he dries his hands, and then he finds himself doing the same exact thing. He's wiping down the sink. So I called Walter one day after hearing the story. When he told me the story, then I started doing it. So I called Walter one day and said, hey, Walter, we wrote a book. And he said, we did. And I said, yeah, it's called The Sync. It's about your story. He's like, okay, cool. So we collaborated on it, went back and forth, turned it over to the designer. I think, had some great images in there. And then put together this little thing that I think is going to be a deal changer. And it's really just about leaving things better. And you found it actually on our The Sync Facebook page. It's kind of building some momentum on. We tell Sync stories and things. One was I was walking down the street on a little morning power walk. Go Tony Robbins. And have you ever walked on fire, Jena?
No, I've seen that.
Okay, all right.
I walk through fire on a regular basis.
You walk through fire on a regular basis. We all do. That's the point.
I like to throw myself in it.
I love it. So I'm walking down the street and I see this. There's a cement truck over on the side of the road that is spotless, which is not a normal deal, when you see a cement truck. So I went over and there's a guy and he's sort of polishing up the rims on the cement truck. And I said, hey, listen, I'm sorry, but are you the driver? And he goes, yeah, I am. I said, well, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm cleaning the truck, And I said, okay, but can I ask you a question? He says, sure. And I said, why? And I just was waiting for his response. And I was expecting him to say something like, because management requires it. If they come by and the truck's not clean, I get in big trouble, I get written up. He looks at me with this look like of just incredulity and goes, well, you got to take pride in your work, right? And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know what this company's done, but the people they've hired, the way they've trained them, they have just built this environment of leaving things better than you found it. So we get into the book, it's not just about physical stuff. It's really about leaving people better than you found them. So I talk in a company of owners about having a BAM, a business actionable mantra, and what that looks like. And the Ritz-Carlton, great company, has a business actionable mantra. We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And there's so many ways you can take that, but it just directs their behavior.
Mantra, not mission.
Mantra over mission, because most mission statements are like, we exist to provide quality customer service for our constituency while interfacing with the government and the community in a way that, come on, really?
Nobody cares.
My buddy was pointing out that one company has "we obey the law." Like, really? Okay, well that's good. You get some good brownie points for obeying the law. That's if you got to put that in your mission statement. At any rate, yeah, my mission statement: I obey the law. So I came up with some BAMs for myself, and I would encourage you to do this. Some mantras.
What are some tips on that? So I need to write my business plans, and I can't get past the mission statements.
Do you want a total scoop?
I don't
even know if I should share this right now, but I'm going to share it.
Share.
So my sweet Elise, my new bride, was telling me, when are you going to write your mantra book? Okay.
Mantra book.
And then it dawned on me.
She's got good ideas. You should keep her.
I have a concept I've developed a long time ago called mind tattoos. Okay. So I'm going to do a book of just mind tattoos, I call them. They're mantras. They're incantations. They're called by a lot of different names. But mind tattoos, and these are things, why do people put tattoos on? I don't have any, but you put a tattoo because it's something that's meaningful to you. You want to carry it around with you and it reminds you. So mind tattoos are stuff that remind you on a daily basis who you are, what you're about, how to act in any situation.
You got that trademark, right?
No.
Attorney wife, can't help it.
Yeah. So we're going to get right on that. There's a weird story about that. But at any rate, so I'm going to put out this fun little book with that. But I'll give you one of mine. One of my business actual mantras or mind tattoos is I amplify the inherent greatness in every person I meet. And that's just born out of a conviction that, look, everybody you see walking around, I don't care, homeless person.
You got some attention there.
People that just walk by in the hallway going, what in the heck are y'all doing in there? Everybody has greatness in them, and inherent means you are born with it. It is given to you. And if you've lost that and you're not recognizing that, look at me right now. I'm telling you it's there. It's present in you. And a lot of what the world decides is greatness is not greatness. Some people live out their lives. They do amazing things for just the people in their immediate circles they love and they care about. They raise some amazing kids. They just love them. Or they just do things that have an impact in the community, and they will never be on the front page of a paper. They're never going to be on Amazon or have books and all that stuff. But I'm telling you, it's there, and it's there for every person that ever sees this and all of the people around you. Sorry, I'm preaching now. What that means is We have to treat ourselves with a certain amount of care related to that if you want to acknowledge that greatness that is within you, and you have to treat everyone else in the same manner, no matter what they're acting like, because you never know what's going on in another person's life. So amplify the inherent greatness in every person I meet, and that means when I walk into, you know, a Starbucks or a Paradise Bakery and they say, how are you doing? I'm not like, yeah, okay, I'm good. Well, can I get a salad? I'm like, hey, I'm outstanding. And, you know, people freak out like, whoa. And I walked into a place the other day and I said, I'm outstanding. And she was like, I don't think anyone's ever said something like that before. That's incredible. Because most people are going through life, what I call like zombies, right? They're just going through the motions. And we got to break that up. You know, that's another book. Geez, Jenna, how many books am I going to put out? But this
your next one's going to be with me. You can help me.
Okay, awesome. I'm excited. No, you've got a book written all over you. So.
I actually think I will. I'm going to turn my like Facebook templates. How do you write a Facebook post?
Okay.
It's more meaningful and.
Jenna, I'm all over that. I'll definitely help you with that. That's fantastic. So because we have been friends since 3rd grade.
Totally since then.
But yeah, and in fact, you know, a lot of people, boy, I can't remember the quote, but it says something like, don't go to your grave with the song still in you. And people have songs in them. They've got poetry they want to write, they want to produce, they've got books, they've got art. I'm doing a 12-week course right now that I just started called The Artist's Way. I think, is that the title of it? I believe so. And it's about unleashing your inner creativity and how do you go about doing that. And, you know, it's got all these activities you have to do and stuff. So at any rate, come along with me. I invited people on Facebook, you know, do it from your house. Let's do this together.
How are you doing that one?
So the thing you start with every day is you write 3 pages just to get stuff out of your brain. And it's just free form, craziness, whatever thoughts are going through your brain, you just put them down on paper. Then you have an artist date with yourself. You have to go do something artistic or something that, you know, it could be outside in nature, it could be going to a museum, it could be visiting a great cathedral, whatever you do. But the premise of the author is that every person has this creativity in them. Like I'm talking about the inherent greatness, it's the inherent creativity, and you got to go discover it. And when you do discover it, it helps you in every area of life. So
I have a question for you.
Okay,
I have
please.
a good question for you. So I work
No
with
bad questions.
a lot of moms. A lot of veterans, and I get a lot of people who have kind of lost their way. So they were, you know, they were great in high school, even college, they maybe had a career, and then maybe they had babies, or they came out of the military, or they moved, and then they just feel stuck because they lost all the momentum they built, and they have to start from scratch, and now it's much more difficult. The way people view them is different. How do they move on with that inner song and get started all over again with momentum?
Okay. Oh boy.
Is that a bigger one that we have time for?
No,
That's like
you're
a big box.
with momentum, you're setting me up for.
Momentum.
So I did a 1-minute TED Talk. I was at a TED event.
You did a TED Talk?
I have not done a TED Talk officially.
Okay.
But I was at a TED event and they said, hey, when we come back from lunch, 1 minute, 3 people, you get the microphone up on the big round red carpet and go. So I've got 10 minutes to come up with this. I'm like, by the way, a couple years ago, I went through this decision-changing time, and then I decided I'm tired of talking about what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing it, and that's how I've put out 4 books, believe it or not, in like 1 year. That's crazy, 2 and 2. But I decided I'm going to start doing stuff. So when they said, hey, if you want to come back, my hand shot up. Like, yes, say yes to everything.
You speak wonderfully.
I'm just going to do it. So I come back. They hand me the microphone, I get up in front of the big camera, and they start shooting, and I said, raise your hand, everybody raise your hand if you've done something you regretted. And all these hands go up, and I said, all right. I said, now I want you to raise your hand if you've ever not done something and regretted not doing it. Jenna, there was a sigh in the room. All these hands went up, and they regretted doing some things, but there was you could feel the energy in the room, just, people raising their hands, right? And there was an audible sigh. I said, man, I really struck a nerve here. So I actually put the microphone in somebody's face and said, tell us what it was. And they looked at me horrified. I was like, no, I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
You know what? I think I got in trouble with an ex because I told him I regret nothing. Every bad decision makes me who I am and where I'm at.
That's the way I live, and I think that's the right way to live. But people walk around with this shoulda, coulda, woulda sort of
those
stuff.
Those are the ones I regret. The one I didn't jump.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So those are the big ones. So I said, I think it's the stuff we don't do that we end up regretting more than the stuff we do.
I agree.
And the theme for this was momentum, for this particular TED deal was momentum. And I said, really, I think success in life is about taking the hesitation out of the moments. Momentum, get it? Moment. This is, the momentum. Okay. So, and then I said, Mario Andretti said, if life doesn't feel a little out of control, you're just not going fast enough, and then boom, drop the mic.
He has some great moments.
1 minute talk, bam. But so for those people that you're talking about, listen, this is it. This is today. People say all the time, and I've quit saying this, and I'm trying to get everybody else to quit saying this. Tell me if you've heard this phrase, life is too short to. Who gives a rip how short life is? It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. If life were 5,700 million years, is that a real number?
If something like that, a zillion, billion,
yes.
trillion,
whatever.
whatever.
If it was a trillion years long, why do you want to spend 1 second doing something that isn't something that's blessing you, blessing somebody else? That's my other mantra, by the way, is I live my life joyfully and abundantly on my terms while being a blessing to everyone around me. And so I evaluate every day. I'm doing something.
Today, you didn't even know what you were doing.
I didn't know what I was doing. I just showed up. I was like, what are we talking about, Jenna? What do you want me to do? But I mean, so maybe I'm doing something that's a household chore that I'm not super excited about. I don't go, this isn't, I'm not living joyfully on my terms. I go, no, this is what I need to be doing right now. Bring some joy into it. So it's not that you just don't do anything, you got to pay bills, you got to do stuff. But we should be living each moment as if it's a gift, because it absolutely is. And forget how long life is. Start right now, today.
By the way, that builds brain matter. I just did a thing at the Center for Brain Health. And if you do something
because
mundane,
you're just that cool.
It was an offering for veterans. Some anonymous donor donated it so we could do this. And if you do a mundane task, or in everything you do, if you think about 2 things from that project that are directly related to you in a meaningful way, so it could be singing and belting it out loud and relating it back to you, it actually builds the white matter that connects the executive decision-making part of the brain to the part that intakes information, the croc brain. So
yeah.
It's like, huh.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But like for the moms that are sitting around doing nothing and they think they're brain dead watching Caillou,
yeah,
you have to take it and you have to find some meaning in it.
Absolutely find meaning, and everybody can do this thing. You can be an encouragement to somebody else, and you can do that on Facebook, you can do that through email or text or anything along those lines. Did I tell the Johnny the Bagger story?
No, you did not. Or the basketball one.
Oh, okay. Well,
you guys are the great ones.
Did I tell Johnny the Bagger at the thing? No,
you didn't.
Okay, so
I've heard it.
There's a great story about a kid that worked at a grocery store, and he comes home one day and he says to his dad, everybody seems so sad, kind of that zombie, stuff I'm talking about, and I want to do something for them. So they write up all these pithy little sayings, today is the first day of the rest of your life. You're beautiful, act like it, whatever. I mean, they just come up with this stuff, right? And they write them on these little strips of paper, chop them up. Johnny the Bagger sticks them in people's grocery sacks as he's sacking them. About 3 weeks later, the manager's looking out over the store and he goes, oh my goodness, we've got people lined up down the aisle for row 7. We need some more checkers to the front. He's on the intercom. We need more checkers to the front right away. And then he starts looking. No, aisle 2, there's nobody. Aisle 5, there's nobody. And there are people waiting to check, right? So he goes over and starts pulling people out of line. Hey, come over here. Line 2's open. You don't have to stand in this line. No, I'll wait. Turns out they're waiting because they want that little bit of encouragement. So he starts talking to customers and people, and one lady said, look, I used to go grocery shopping once a month. I dreaded it. I got it all over with at one time. She said, now, if I'm within 10 miles of this store and I need one item, toothpaste, I'll come by if I know Johnny's working, just so I can get in Johnny's line.
Wow.
So think about what a profound impact. You're sitting at home, you don't think you can do anything? Ridiculous. There's a great story, and boy, I wish I could remember her name, Wheeler. I think her last name is Wheeler. 12-year-old girl, years ago, watching TV. They're talking about Haiti. and all of the struggles that they were having. And unfortunately, that country has just, had a lot of ongoing difficulties and problems. And she's hearing this, and she goes, Mom, I want to do something. So she starts doing bake sales at school to raise money for Haiti. She starts doing all of these sorts of things, long and short, within not too long a period of time. Then the community got on board. They start listening to her. She's out crusading. She's doing all this stuff out at parks and getting people, engaged. $250,000, this 12-year-old. I think it's up to maybe $500,000 at this point.
Wow.
They were able to go over there, build homes. The people of Haiti treated her like she was just, Mother Teresa. It was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. 12-year-old decides she wanted to change the world, and then she did.
So what happens to that? I feel like there's lots of kids who are like that, and then it gets sucked out of us.
And why does it get sucked out of us?
I think the world can be a beating, and every now and then it hits us with a 2x4 over the head.
It's not meant to be a beating. But, okay, what kind of a crazy culture and world do we live in when this is an actual criticism? They're just a little too happy.
I've been made fun of that. I've been told I smile too much.
Yes, you smile too much. You're just a little too happy, Jenna. Rein it, tone it down. Why? Because misery loves company. And many people are walking around miserable, and you don't have to be. Misery is not only a state of mind. Boy, some of y'all are not going to like this, but I'm telling you, and I've been there, trust me, I've contemplated it all, and you know what I'm talking about. Misery, we do it to ourselves. It's not about circumstances. It's not about what's going on in our life. It's not about how much money we have or don't have or what kind of relationship we're in. All that stuff can really be horrific. I've been through a divorce. I've done the deal. I've been broke. I've done all of that stuff. But I'm telling you, misery is a state of mind. And when you put yourself in that place of life sucks and then you die, guess what happens? Life sucks and then you live that way and then ultimately you die, right? And then you go, see on your deathbed, I told you so. Look. That's not what this life was meant to be about. This life is about bringing light. A very well-known, let's just say, religious teacher said, you are the light of the world. And that's been in so many different cultures and places that say very similar things.
Several books just written different ways.
You're the light of the world. And I don't care what you study from a prophet or religious leader sort of standpoint. They're all in many ways saying that as the core message, that look, this life is about light. And anything that's telling this life is about pain and suffering, and that's what really this life is about, that's nonsense. And I don't care what religious tradition you're coming from, I can prove that out. Trust me, I've studied a bunch of them. I wouldn't say all, because I'm sure there's some really obscure little one out there that I haven't looked into. But no. This world is about, joy and about light and about us bringing that not only to other people, but people in our own lives and to ourselves. So, whew, man.
I got a question for you now, though.
Okay, great. We started out someplace, and now we've ended up somewhere completely
Well, that's the
different.
best part about Facebook Live. It's like a cross between a video and, what do they call them, webinar and a podcast. So, have you seen the Ken Robinson's TED Talk?
No. What's that about?
I have no idea. I asked him. That's David.
Okay. Hey, David.
David is out in Denver watching.
Okay. Hey, so David, send me a link to that. Daren, D-A-R-E-N, at DarenMartin.com. D-A-R-E-N, Martin. Make sure you get one R and an E. Thank you, my parents, for spelling my name weird compared to other Darren so that I could get Twitter and all those cool things.
And then we got Randy, as ye sow, so shall ye reap.
Absolutely. So, sowing and reaping. Look, we get this. I mean, I'm not a farmer. My grandfather was a farmer. I've got relatives who farm. But if you take a certain kind of seed and you put it in a certain kind of soil, don't be surprised when months from then you come out and that's what grew, right? I stick an apple seed in the ground, I'm going to come out and there's an apple tree. Then I'm not going to be thinking, oh, well, why is there not an orange tree? Why did a pear tree not grow? What you sow is what you reap. And I don't mean that in a condemning sort of fashion. It's just a law of nature. So, and what you look for is also what you see. It's a little thing called the reticular activation system. If I tell myself the world is a bad, scary place, everybody is out to screw you over and will hurt you at every turn, guess what kind of people I'm constantly running into? If I tell myself, which I do, the world is a big, glorious place, it's full of opportunity, it's a world of abundance, anybody will help you with anything if you just ask them, right? So you said call in a favor. This isn't a favor. You said, hey, would you come do this thing? I didn't even know what it was, Jenna, right?
You didn't?
I was like, yeah.
You just see all my machines.
Said, hey, what about Tuesday? Tuesday won't work? Yeah, great. You know, I'm in town. Let's do it.
So the Ken Robinson talk, that is about the failing education system.
Oh my. Okay.
So for all the things I've heard you talk about, and a lot of it, what you're mentioning is, you know, your books are directed at business and corporations because that is where your expertise and you talk so much at. But this can all be taught to kids early and probably do better.
Everything that's important for success in life, we do not teach. We don't teach in school. I have a friend who used to say he had two kind of teachers growing up: those who taught him what to think, and the other kind that there were fewer of, but that had the biggest impact, those who taught him how to think. How much are we teaching kids at school how to think? I just read Neil Gaiman's just today. Make great art, and it ignited my soul. I woke up in a particular, and I don't know if you've had one of these moments, but I just walked over, and we have a huge amount of books, and one of the blessings of that is you can just be drawn to one. This is a quick read. I pulled it off the shelf, said exactly what I needed, but he said some very similar things, that, you know, our education system is broken. And it is, I've got a buddy of mine who I just heard from today, Michael, actually. He told me about the happiness book that I was mentioning earlier, his friend. And they unschool. So he unschools his kids. And I don't know if you know, there's homeschooling.
No, I've heard of it, but it's still homeschooling, but it's unschooling.
Yeah, because what they do is like, hey, my son wants to figure out how to have his own character in War of Worldcraft, so he, you know, goes on a site and figures out how to write code. Well, the next thing you know, he's learned how to write code, right? I told a story last night, I tell it a lot, about the 10-year-old getting on a multi-million-dollar flight simulator and sticking the aircraft carrier landing.
Nice.
So do you know how many years of school pilots have to go to? Math, they're doing all this stuff, then they finally get in the simulator, then they finally get in the plane. This kid at 10 did the toughest maneuver in piloting. Why? Because he was doing something fun. He was playing games.
Have you seen a real flight simulator? So I'm former Air Force Intel, and we used to work with the pilots. And it is completely gamified. You sit in a cockpit, and it is surrounded by those flat screen TVs, and it is like you were flying.
Yes, it's
awesome.
Super realistic.
Best
right?
video game ever.
So I actually saw the other day that by 2018 the Blue Angels are going to be unmanned. Unmanned planes.
Pilots have iffy thoughts about those.
I'm sure they do, but guys, 2017. You know, I talked to a guy the other day, an Uber driver, and he said, you know, I'm thinking about getting my pilot, you know, going and getting my professional pilot's license. I was like, ooh, dude, I don't know if I would do that. It's like becoming a truck driver today because stuff is starting to trend towards driverless vehicles. And we can rage against the machine all we want and shake our fist and say it'll never work. But that stuff
learn to code it.
It's learn to code it.
My sister's just graduated, or she graduated this last December from UT. And with a computer science degree, and is offered a 6-figure sum to code for a major company.
Interesting. So think about the, you know, what
21. She's 21.
I love it. Shout out to your sister. So, but think about it. People go, oh yeah, but what's the fun then if you can't drive or you can't? Well, the simulation, people that have experienced AR, augmented reality, and some of that stuff. I was talking to a buddy who played a first-person shooter game with the surround, you know, it was the whole deal set up, and he said freaked him out. It was so real. So what if you're going to be able to fly a rocket ship or fly a F-16 or do all that and do it as if you were there, but obviously without some of the risk? Who knows? I don't want to get off on that direction. But how did you get us in that off there? Oh, education system. The education system, here's what we don't teach kids to do. We don't teach them how to make money. How many of you learned how to make money in school and not just make it but keep it? We don't teach that at all. We don't teach stuff that is, you know, going to help somebody accrue wealth and build wildly successful. In fact, really what we teach in culture is, you know, run up the credit cards and just, you know, be in debt and just, you know, keep work, right? So we don't teach that. We don't teach people how to think. We don't teach kids how to build businesses and be entrepreneurs. My daughter, amazing little Callahan Martin, is at University of Texas in the Business Honors Program. We went around to all of the schools, not all the schools, that would take a lifetime.
A lot.
But we went to a lot of schools. She happened to be top of her class, valedictorian, so she had a lot of options open to her. We went to school after school, going to the little business department, and what I found out in some of these schools, they're training kids not to be entrepreneurs, not to exist in 2017. They're training them to do the old sawmill sort of thing of go to work for a firm or go to do this thing instead of, again, how to think. So that's a great comment, and I think that's a big deal. So,
I have a last question.
Last question. I got to sign off.
Do you have anything coming up where we can see you, or you have the books? Do you have any events coming up? Or?
Yes, come to Panama. If you want to come hear me speak, that's the next gig.
Panama.
No, I'm thinking about putting some stuff together in the Metroplex because I've just got so many friends and people here that I'd like to pull together. But I will keep you posted on that. I'll make sure Jena knows. Books, absolutely. Listen, as an author and a speaker, this is where, this is my passion. This is the stuff. These are my little babies. I've got 3 children I mentioned, but these are like my little babies. But go check them out on Amazon. If you like them, if you love them, please write a review. They're all special in their own little right. And look, whether you're a business person or not, I think their idea is this one, Act Like a Company of Owners, really gets into how do you take ownership, really. So this one's kind of for everybody. This is the We Are the World, and it's going to be a deal changer. But hopefully you'll check this out. I also have a podcast.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Obnoxiously named The Daren Martin Show.
Nice.
Okay? So just Google that. There's about 32 episodes up right now. We were just listening to the new one that posted on the way over here. So I'm very easy to find. DarenMartin, DarenMartin.com. Google me. I've got a bunch of stuff on YouTube and videos and so forth. So, hey, get you back in here. Big shout out. Jena, the amazing. Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Boom.